Get some water. Let's get some water. La la la. Brand new stream, brand new theme. How's everybody doing today? The bed is made. Let's get it. Okay, let me see. We live? 1212. What's up, Rafa? First one in the chat. How you doing? Dun, dun, dun. 2 seconds here. There's water all over my floor. It's been raining. Welcome to another stream, everyone. First one in the stream. I see you, I see you, I see you. I haven't started the stream on Twitch yet, so let me just do that. 2 seconds here. Today's stream will be very special. Actually, I haven't done a stream like this in probably like a year. The art of the positional exchange sacrifice. I'm very excited to be, because I'll be learning in this one as well. Like, I'm not just going to be like guiding you guys. We'll just all learn together. I think that's making a lot of sense. Feet, Garry Kasparov, Vishy Anand, etc. Okay. New stuff. How's everybody doing today? How we feeling? How we being? Let me start the stream on Twitch. Okay. Hello, everyone. Hello. Did you watch Spain versus France? Yes, I saw the highlights just now before starting the stream. Crazy match. Yamin Lamal is... putting me in depression, I'm not going to lie, bruv. The kid is 16. The kid is 16. And like 10 times more successful than me. Oh, the entire world. He's cooking the entire world at this point. Yeah. A bit of a lag with the stream. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do about that. I put it on the... Maybe it's... Maybe I'll remove some windows. Yeah, I'll just quit a lot of stuff. If there's lag, it's generally coming from my computer. Welcome to the stream, everyone. Hope you guys are doing well. Welcome. What's up, Dimensionalized? What's up, Logan? What's up, Cloned? What's up, Biz Creeper? What's up, Team Timu? How is everyone? Lukash in the chat. Eloisa. Beautiful name, that. Rafa in the chat. Welcome, everyone. I'm very excited to present to you what I will be calling the episode 1. First time I do a stream like this in a very, very long time, and I think it's going to be a very instructive stream and very entertaining as well. So it's going to be an all-around fantastic stream. Basically, I want to read this book, right? But reading books is boring. It's very boring. You're just sitting there, you're reading, and sometimes like the diagram, there's diagrams in the pages, but like you're seeing the diagram and then there's moves and then, okay, you can't really think with the moves there and then you have to skip to the next diagram and it's boring. So I've decided to fix that. I said to myself, why don't we do something on stream, A, and B, why don't we look at the games in this book, which is called Mastering Positional Sacrifices. Particularly today, we will be looking at the positional exchange sacrifice. That is when you give a rook for a minor piece. So you sacrifice your rook for a bishop or a knight. So that's the theme of today. So we're going to be seeing the compilation of chess games from this book, in which we will see the positional exchange sacrifices. I use this to inspire me for my over-the-board tournaments. Not only that, there's some very useful information, very instructive information, and it's also about pattern recognition. That's how you just get better at chess. You play with those patterns. So, are you streaming this instead of doing a video? I don't know about a video for this type of format. Maybe we'll try it on stream, and if you guys love it, I'll do like a special video for that. But yeah, shout out to this book though. This is the book I'm completely inspiring myself from. We'll be seeing a chapter from this book today, so might as well give a small props. So let's get into it. We have so many games to see today. We have, let me just count. They're all very instructive on the same theme. That's what's so cool about today's thing. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8. We have eight games to see. And they're all annotated in this book, and we're just going to devour them, both of us, together. Also, is that I've never seen these games. So I'm not going to be like the instructor today. We're discovering these games together for the first time. I hope for the first time. If you've seen these games, try not to spoil. But also, make some suggestions, ask some questions. That's what we're here to do today. I think it's very, very cool if we can just, have some fun and watch some brilliant games from history. Are you going to cook opponents today? Today I'm not playing online chess. I'm taking a little break because I have a tournament coming up and I'm more in a study mode so that my tournament can be a very good tournament, right? Pretty self-explanatory. Okay, let's get into game number 1. Game number 1 was played in 2000 in Bosnia and Herzegovina, Sarajevo, the capital. And this is a game between Garry Kasparov, one of the best chess players of all time, probably like number 1 or number 2. And he's playing Sergei Movsesian, who's from Armenia. And you can always tell that somebody's from Armenia with the last name ending in IAN. So I'm going to highlight it here on the screen. IAN, you can always tell that somebody is from Armenia with that last name ending. Okay, so Kasparov has the black pieces. Movsesian plays e4. Kasparov goes c5. Kasparov was very known to play these Sicilians. This is a open Sicilian, but then he goes into a Najdorf with a6. But hold on, not only does he do Najdorf, he doesn't select the most popular Najdorf of today. He goes e6 here. And I'm curious if anybody in the chat has ever played this. This is called the e6 Najdorf. I think it also can be labeled as a Scheveningen. I've never played this with black before. But this is a system that Kasparov really liked to play with these pawns here. He felt like they had a lot of control in the center, like this here. And so here, the pawns are controlling just about anything. But I'm curious if you guys have ever played this or not. Kasparov always plays knight g4. Here? In the Sicilian? I've never heard of that. That's interesting. Although here he played like this. Black looks losing. Okay, so it's not bad. It's a legit opening. It's just that black compromises a lot of their space, right? With low space, black is, just having less squares to develop their pieces. Okay, so f3 is played here by the opponent, establishing a nice pawn chain. And now b5 is played here by Garry Kasparov. So far, so good. Where are we? b5. Do I have the wrong game? No. b5, okay. Queen d2 is played. So when white goes queen d2, usually to me, it means that castling long is coming very, very soon. So white has cleared the way to castle long here and to establish a rook on this open file to possibly pressure this pawn. Although the pawn is very firmly defended by two pieces for now, right? And so Kasparov develops his knight, castles long, bringing the rook into the game and the king into safety. This is a multi-function move, multi-purpose move, pardon. And now bishop b7. So here also a multi-purpose move by Garry Kasparov. He's developing his bishop, albeit not on the best diagonal in the world. But he's also clearing the lane for this rook to develop to c8 and to then x-ray this king. Garry is pawn maxing, yes. So Garry has made so many pawn moves, it's kind of insane. The only pawns he hasn't touched are the ones that will be guarding his king. Quite interesting observation you made there, Nick. Very nice. I've struggled against those pawns, but haven't played the black side. Yeah, so I struggled against these pawns in one of my last tournament games, actually, with the white pieces. It's very important, I learned from that game, to not overpush when your opponent has low space. So I kind of threw my pawns at the black pieces here and ended up regretting it very, very soon. And, this is, you have to kind of respect that this is kind of solid. And yes, take the space with these pawns, maybe. But be very, very cautious into overexpanding your position, because that can be very punishing. Does e6 support a potential d5? That's a very interesting observation and idea, Rafa. I would assume that d5 is a potential move that you can play indeed, because for now you have d6 that is a weakness, but if you manage to push d5, you can actually put pressure on white's center and establish a nice pawn chain in the center. Although here, I think it's too much of an explosive topic to be able to play d5 instantly. I think we will see d5 a little bit later in this game, if we see it at all. First, black has to focus on developing, finishing, and completing the development of this kingside. Okay, so g4 is played, and we're getting to our theme very soon. I think in 5 moves. In 5 moves, we will see our first positional sacrifice of the night. If you clicked on the title, I promise it's not clickbait. Every single one of the games that we're going to look at today has a positional sacrifice at hand. Okay, let's continue. So knight b6. This is an interesting move to me. And it's not one that many inexperienced players would be recommended to play, because you're moving a piece for the second time in the opening. Whereas black is omitting development on the king side. Okay, maybe castling onto a straight up attack is not the best, but at the same time, this is a big delay of the king's safety. So the king could be compromised. Queen f2 is played here. This knight was eyeing some nice squares, though. I will give him that. I love this. The knight c4, knight a4 things are very, very nice. Queen f2, and now speaking of eyeing, I like that the white pieces are kind of x-raying this knight. I think that a threat on the board is definitely knight takes e6 here, sacrificing the knight. And if you take back with the pawn, then I have bishop takes knight here. And if you don't take back with the pawn, well, then I'm threatening your queen and threatening your knight over here. So black has to respond to this threat, either by defending this knight, double downing on the defense of the knight, or I think just playing the knight one more time. But Garry plays the nice move. It's the only move that secures an advantage here. It's a very good move. Here he's doubling down on the defense of the b6 knight. He's defending this so that knight takes e6 is completely irreversible by f takes e6, and there's no threat on this b6 knight because I can just take back. And so all this is good. But again, Mr. Kasparov is not that well developed on the king side. King b1, this is, as Ivan Saric says, never a bad move. King b1 is never a bad move because when you're castling long, the king is trying to get to the safe square, the castled square on b1. And if it's not on b1, well then it is vulnerable to these file attacks by rooks. Make sense? If you guys have any questions, any comments, any observations, I am totally ears open. G6, then fianchetto. So I would say beware about these moves. In these structures, if you play e6 and g6 generally, you are vulnerable to f4, f5 things. So that is something to keep in mind. With g6 and e6 open, when white gets like a pawn to f5, it's easy to explode open this side of the board. So king b1 is played, And now Garry Kasparov plays a very sneaky move. He's playing rook c8. He's not just developing his rook, he's not just x-raying this file, I think he's also threatening a positional sacrifice. That's what I think. So I don't know if it's going to happen next move, but I'm pretty sure, given the theme, let me just read in the book what's going on. Okay, we have some commentary on the next move, so I'm going to touch up on that. I'd be scared of g4, h4 ideas as black. g5, h4 ideas, yeah. Yeah, so g5, h4, definitely scary, especially on g6 if you're mentioning that. But yeah, g5, h4, h5. Usually how white attacks black here to open up the king side is to do h4, h5, g5, and then g6. And then you can just crack open this side of the board. As white, I love when they go g6 despite playing a Najdorf, because h4, h5, yes. And then you can open up. Yeah, exactly. So g6 to develop is not that great because your pawn is closer to mine to open up a file. That's also a very, very good point, Rafa. And also I'll add to that g6 provides what we call in chess a hook for this pawn to go h4, h5 and take here. And so if you play like h6, that's also a hook because then I can go like this and I can take. And g6 is also a type of hook here that will just let me like open up a file by trading pawns on your pawn. Does that make sense? Okay, so bishop d3, and now we have some commentary in the book for the first time of the stream. White deliberately allows the exchange sacrifice, but black's compensation will be automatic. Knight ce2. Knight ce2 was the way to prevent it. Kind of choking up this bishop here. I love how this knight is the move suggestion, whereas we just played like a knight move to defend our knight. And this knight kind of escapes the combination, but also defends this knight. It's kind of recurring patterns. So bishop d3. And now Bobby Fischer's nemesis, played rook takes c3 here. So, I'm going to ask the chat right now. What is the goal of the positional sacrifice in this case? This is called a Sicilian positional sacrifice. It's when you make a sacrifice particularly against or with the Sicilian defense against the white pieces. So what's the goal of this? Open up the king, double pawns on the c file. Yes, these are very good answers, you guys. Knight a4, very good answer. You guys are doing very good. What's up, Farhan? Welcome to the stream. So here, one of the best things I heard is to open up the king. But I think there is one component to the answer that I haven't heard so far. The king is getting exposed. You are doubling the pawns. You're messing up the pawn structure. You're going to play knight a4. D5 is coming at some point. Yes. But there's one element that nobody has said yet. Removing a key defender, I like that too. That's also true. You're removing the knight. But there's something very instructive about this game that I just read here, actually. There's a reason why we want to do these positional sacrifices. And it was taught to me in this book in a different game, in an earlier game that I saw today. And it really opened my eyes.
W's in the shot. W's in the shot.
The diagonal would be weak. You're getting very close. Yes, yes. Ostafar 1, 2, 3. Yes, 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 yes. We got a super big W answer. Okay, so the reason you do this sacrifice, the reason it's so strong, is that you're winning dark squares. So you're weakening the dark squares around this king. It's a genius component, in my belief, to this sacrifice. It's super hidden. Because some people might think, okay, you're attacking the king is weak, you know, and I even want to show you guys the game I saw earlier from this same book when I was studying earlier. It was so instructive, I was like, what? It's where the king started to run. I think it's in the Soltis game. Yeah, I think it's in the Soltis game. Yes, it is. Okay, so in the game I saw earlier, it was like this. It was very similar. This chapter is called Sicilian Sacrifices. So here he goes, we're weakening the dark squares, right? And we're attacking this pawn. We're putting pressure on this pawn. This is a different game played by Andrew Soltis against Jan Mikhail Nikop. And his opponent defends the pawn, and upon pressuring the pawn a second time by Soltis, his opponent does a huge mistake that just reveals how much back in the day they were kind of confused at these types of sacrifices. King d2 is played here, and this is a huge mistake. The king is used to defend this, but also the king is used to run here. What happened is black got very scared of this rook c8 because it looks like black is applying pressure on c3 and is indeed attacking the white pieces. But this is not true.
W's in the shot.
Black is not attacking the white pieces. And he says this very clearly. I quote, "The confusion that positional sacrifices caused in the old days is remarkable. Here white starts to panic by running his king out of the perceived danger zone. King b1 was the correct way of playing." That's kind of crazy, right? Getting farther into the action indeed. As the king is perfectly safe here. Black's exchange sacrifice is a positional one. It's not a tactical one. Playing for squares rather than for checkmate. I found that incredibly instructive. So when Black sacrifices here, we want the squares around the king. We're not going for checkmate. And so that's why this sacrifice is so good, because long term, you can get a winning position in the endgame. And you have like a knight. And because you've ruined Black's structure like that, those pawns will just be collapsing. Like they'll be so easy to pick off. So back to our game of Garry Kasparov. Let me get to it. I'm like scrolling through like 19 games here. Okay. So we're back to the same moment as in the Kasparov game. So once again, Kasparov has sacrificed the rook here. Let me just put a great move on that. And this marks that we want the dark squares. So you're going to see Kasparov not with a big capital not. Kasparov will be not checkmating this king. Instead, Kasparov will be playing on the weaknesses, the doubled pawns, the weak dark squares, and the weakness of the king to outplay his opponent. It's a purely positional sacrifice. Okay. Why king g1 over king g2? The king is very, very far from g1. Did you mean king b1? Oh, did you mean in the last game? I think you meant in the last game, right? We've moved on. But I think if you occupy the dark squares as the king, you're more vulnerable to checks, right? So if the king goes to b2 ever, like this bishop opens up with this queen on a3, and it's not good news. Okay. Show how that game ends. Chat, if you want me to show you how that game ends, I need more than one person. But yeah, the king ran away, and eventually it went bad. Okay, so now Kasparov is going to apply pressure on this pawn. Queen c7. Let me just get to our game here. Queen c7, attacking this, and now white defending this. Knight e2. And now he goes with a great move. In the book, this is not my thought. In the book, he gives a great move to this. He goes emphasizing the positional nature of the sacrifice. I want you guys to realize how slow Kasparov is taking this sacrifice. He is not throwing his pieces at the king. He is not rushing to play knight a4 here. He is simply calm and collected, about to castle, just to bring another piece into play. This is not an attack. I have to say this multiple times. What's up, Brazilian? How you doing, Bev? Brazilian in the chat. Okay. Moving forward. The opponent goes g5, and now Kasparov castles. h4, and now we're seeing something very typical for a Sicilian, is that you have opposite castled kings. So Black's idea is to attack the white pieces, softened up by the blow on c3, and White's idea is to open up files on the Black king and to take out all of those pawns to checkmate this king that appears to have very low number of defenders. None of the defenders are around here. Sometimes you have even two minor pieces that are defending. You have the knight that's here, and you have the bishop that's here on g7, eyeing this diagonal. Black has none of those. So I think it can be very dangerous if you give white two moves for free. So Kasparov plays two very active moves in the next two moves here. He goes knight a4. I like this move a lot. Not only are you threatening mate, but you're also taking up the weak dark squares. This is like perfectly on theme. What's up, Robert Dawood? How you doing? So now bishop at c1. This is a very interesting move. I want to read the commentary from this move. Okay. Bishop c1 is a mistake. As you saw the eval bar there go up for black. The problem with white's queenside position is that it is beyond repair. This defensive move only loses time. The only way forward for white, and this is from the book, is h5, says the book. So bishop c1. And now Garry goes with another active move. He goes with knight e5. This is a sensational game. I need to like double down on the fact that Garry is not bringing his queen forward, right? He's not like trying to go here. He's not trying to checkmate the king. He's not trying to push up his pawns. He's simply going on square domination. The squares are weak. It's very sensational, right? Even to the point where he will give a free pawn move. He'll throw in a free pawn move on tempo for his opponent just to go knight c4. So knight d5, black is getting all his natural moves. h5 is played. White is generating some counterplay. And might I remind you, we are still down the exchange at this point. We're still down the exchange. We sacrificed a rook for a knight. But we have all our minor pieces. And now Garry goes for a big strike that we talked about earlier. What is that strike, chat? The dark squared bishop gone already in the other game. Yes, Rafa, exactly. d5. The strike d5 to pressure the center. And also taking up this c4 square. Very, very strong. Thematic central break. White goes queen h2, pinning this knight to the queen. And now we go bishop d6. Taking off the pin, and not only that, we are going threatening knight c4 here. Discovered attack on the queen. And again, taking up all of these dark squares. Quite insane. So black just plays the queen once more. But white is just losing so much time, right? So many moves here played with the queen. Just dangling the queen while black is getting their pieces better and better to better squares. So queen h3. And now black takes here. That's a surprise to me. Instead of playing knight c4, black decides to quote-unquote grab the bishop pair, which is a very big advantage in chess if you manage to carry it out. And so black seizes the bishop pair themselves and kills off white's bishop pair on d3. White replies with c takes, modifying the pawn structure and, might I say, increasing it. And Garry finds an absolute banger of a follow-up move. It's such a banger, I like half understand it. It's very interesting. What do you think Garry played here? d5, yes, yes. d5 was the game. Bowling strike. I'm curious to hear your remarks. What do you think black played here? d4. Wow. Very interesting, Eloisa. d4 is a very interesting suggestion. I see your goal. You're trying to open up the c file and you're pressuring c3. You're also not going for checkmate. This is a very interesting move. In fact, it's the third best move possible in this position. And it's a very, very, like, very nice suggestion. D4, pressuring C4. If you open up, then I have rook C8 coming in. And the computer says it's a draw, but I would even say maybe this is winning for black. No, okay, this is winning for white. So takes rook C8 and then rook D2 to defend this C2 square. And then queen A5. And the engine overall finds a way to defend this. But he played something very similar. And Momo finds the answer. Very well done, Momo. Also, Rafa found the answer. Well done, you guys. So, B4 here. The only winning move in this position. Yes, Ostafari also found it. Well done. Yeah, D4 is a very interesting move. Rook C8 is maybe a little bit slow. B4, you want to explode the position. We are here for squares and for open files. So if you manage to take this pawn, you're opening up the B file on this king. Also, this B4 move pressures the heck out of this pawn. And this time, if white takes the pawn like last time with pawn takes D4, here we get to take back, which is big, like you're not giving a pawn for free, as we saw in that D4 line. But also in this line, we bring in a piece into the attack, furthering the control over these weak dark squares. So we're seeing now big time how black is planning their invasion. Let's just give a sample line. So this did not happen in the game, but let's just give an example. Something like G6 to try to open up the position. And now black comes in with rook C8. So clean. Threatening queen C2. And it's very, very difficult for white to defend this square. Again, the positional sacrifice that we originally saw is to weaken these squares. So you have to target specific squares to get the treasure chest you desire. In this case, queen C2 would win the knight or even maybe checkmate. So you're targeting the weak squares. And also very convenient, but also very natural, is that we're covering the square from the rook this time. As last variation we saw with D4, takes rook here. We were threatening this, but then we saw rook D2, and this was a good defense. With B4 and rook C8, and bishop takes B4, pardon, there is no rook D2, which is very nice. And on takes, we can just take with our king and defend the pawn. And there's no checks here, and we're just like invading. Knight D4 would be the only move defending this square. And now black has a series of wicked moves here, all from which they can choose and win. It's very crazy. Evaluation, top engine evaluation gives queen E5 -3, the equivalence of a piece up, preparing knight C3. So here you're defending this from the queen, you're attacking this knight, and you're preparing knight C3 here. Crazy. So, B4 was actually played in the game. This is a very nice move. C takes, and now rook C8. So Garry is directly going for those weak squares on C2. He doesn't even bother taking back this pawn. Because again, Garry Kasparov is showing us that we're going for the weak squares in this position. We're not attacking this king. The weak squares will get us to the king. You understand me? So this is the square we're targeting. King A1. Let me just get to my page. Are we that close to the end? King A1, okay. Garry takes on E4. I think it's to open things up here. Pawn takes. If this pawn took, I think white is just losing because of bishop E4. And now if you go here, you're giving up the square. So we can take, and we can take, and we can take with mate. I don't know why I said you're giving up the square. You're giving up checkmate. So white takes back with the f-pawn, and now bishop takes e... What? Okay. Might I remind you, I've never seen this game before, so this does come as a shock. Bishop takes e4. Okay, sacrificing the bishop, but okay, it's very understandable now that we've already seen a similar pattern, right? If the pawn takes, there's no defense for white, so this bishop e5 just wins here. So king here, and this is checkmate. So that's why he takes here, so he can take on e4. And so taking on e4 comes with perks. You're threatening this rook on h1. White ruthlessly counterattacks with g6, trying to generate a little bit of counterplay, but it's too little too late, as we can take the exchange. This happens. Queen takes, and now Garry takes the pawn on b4. Check. Garry plays an incredible move, king f8. And I'm willing to bet firm amounts of money that on takes he would have done the same type of move, king h8. That is to mask a pawn. I think it was Victor Korchnoi who said the best piece to defend a king of mine is an enemy pawn, because even the opponent's forces can't get by an opponent pawn. Why isn't the opponent resigning? Good question, Sean. I don't know. So takes on b4 was played. And now takes, and now he goes king f8. Kasparov's incredible ability to calculate complicated lines allows him to finish the game in style. That's what was written. Queen g2, and now rook b8. Here we're threatening bishop a3 with checkmate in a bit. So bishop b2, and now we can take. If king takes, I believe this is like checkmate. This one. King here, and then this one, and then king here, and then this one, and then queen here, and then this one. Checkmate. And this one, and if king here, this one, and if king here, checkmate. Right? Very, very pretty. So this is the only winning move, because at the end of the day, guys and girls, oh no, he gave back the exchange. Oh, this is true. So black didn't win an exchange here. I thought like black won material. This is equal now. Yeah, black was down material. So black is actually equal here, though we have a lot of pawns, and obviously this king is extremely weak. So this is the basis of our advantage. So rook b8, bishop b2 we take, and now knight d4 was played, and now after knight takes rook, knight takes e6. Forking the queen and king. It's too little too late again. After king takes pawn, white resigned, because if you take the queen here, I have bishop c3 check on the king, and I'm winning the queen, and not only that, probably winning the knight too, etc. So takes. What if like queen takes g7, you ask? We can still take this knight, because after queen takes queen, we have bishop c3 check, forcing the queen to give itself, and it's literally checkmate on the next move. Always love watching your videos on positional exchange sacrifices. One of the coolest sacrifices. I also love Tigran, so I may be biased. I also love Tigran personally. So we will have a game of his today. He's featured in today's stream. So, yeah, coming soon. White's earlier queen moves were tragic. Waste of moves and landed out of the game. Yes, I completely agree with that statement as well. Okay, game number 1 complete. Do we like the series? A? And B, do you guys want to know what next game is? Allowing 96 shows how confident Garry's calculation is. It's a hard move to allow, but he saw past it. I absolutely agree with that. Garry Kasparov is probably like top 5 calculators of all time. There's a crazy video on this very platform of YouTube, and when he just goes over a game that he just played with Karpov, I think that month, and he shows the interviewer like all of his calculations. It's absolutely mind-blowing. Are we ready for game number 2 of the day? Following the positional sacrifice once again, we will be looking at chess legend David Bronstein. If anybody can tell me anything about David Bronstein, I will mod you or send you love. If anybody can tell me one fun fact about David Bronstein in the next 5 seconds. I don't want people going on Wikipedia typing hella fast and stuff. Thank you, Dr. Poopies. Appreciate you. Zurich. Yes, Ratchesser. That is an absolute good call. So David is very tightly attached to the Zurich International Chess Tournament of 1953. He was so attached to it that he made a book of said tournament. Wait, I just want to see. He made a book of said tournament, which I own. I have been owning this book. This book actually is the start of my entire content creation journey. If you are watching the stream today, it's because of this book. And he was one of the participants of the tournament. This is the greatest chess tournament of all time. And you see there Bronstein here. He's the second name. And so basically, he got in second place at this tournament. This tournament is like the candidates tournament that just happened in Toronto. Only this was in 1953 to determine who would challenge the current world champion Mikhail Botvinnik at the time. And it's a sensational book. This is the best chess tournament book I own personally. Personal opinion, though. And he annotates almost every one of these games. Personally, this started my content creation journey because there are 225 games in this book, and I gave myself a challenge to annotate or to go through every one of the games in this book and take pictures of me going through the games on Instagram. And so I just started posting the evidence of me having seen and gone through that game in the book. And I intended at the time, in 2018, I started that journey. I intended at the time to finish the book and its analysis of the 225 games in it. I have not completed the book so far. I think I'm at game 183. I haven't done a game in a year. But yeah, it's a very special book to me, and David Bronstein is very special to me because of that book. I featured the book in previous streams. Oh, that's such an OG comment by Crash Dummy Rich. Such an OG comment. So yeah, David Bronstein. He is known as one of the best chess players to never become world champion. He also challenged Mikhail Botvinnik earlier than this tournament in 1951. Him and Mikhail Botvinnik did a World Chess Championship match. There is actually a book on that too, which I own back in Canada. The 1951 match between Mikhail Botvinnik and David Bronstein was really crazy because Bronstein tied Mikhail Botvinnik in that match. And at the time, if you tied the world champion in the match, the world champion retains the title. But the kicker is that Bronstein actually was winning one of the final 2 games, or was winning in both final 2 games, something crazy like this. And Botvinnik managed to tie both of these games to retain his title and tie the match, which is completely demoralizing for Bronstein. But yeah, that's why he's known as one of the strongest chess players to never become world champion. Anyways, I digress. This is a chess game played in the candidates of 1950. 1950 was Groningen, I believe. Where were the candidates of 1950? If anybody has Google, let me know. I don't know. I don't remember where the candidates of 1950s were. I love the chess nerd. I love you, Bev. So anyways, Bronstein is playing Isaac Boleslavsky. Boleslavsky was also a terrific chess player at the time. Boleslavsky was also in the Zurich International Chess Tournament of 1953. And he was just a very strong player. But he never got close to like top 5 back in the day. So Bronstein plays d4. His opponent goes knight f6. And now he goes c4. Oh. Okay, so we have a different theme. Before I continue. Bron versus Isaac, exactly. Bron. He's the LeBron James of chess. LeBron James. Okay, so now we're looking at a different positional sacrifice, everyone. Very Thank you. Thank you guys for saving the stream. Okay, what I said was, the new theme we're looking at is the bishop takes a1 theme. Okay, so this is very, very crucial for any chess player who wants to understand chess more. Bishop takes a1 on a castled king is actually, like, in a lot of cases, a poor move. Because the queen takes back, the queen inherits the diagonal of that bishop, and the dark squares are weak around the king because the bishop has just left the king side. So that's the theme that's at hand right here. So black goes g6. I just repeated what I just said, so the mute is, yeah. We're back, right? Can you guys hear me? The inaugural candidates tournament was held in Budapest in 1950. It was Budapest 1950. It was a double round robin with 10 contenders: Bronstein, Boleslavsky, Smyslov, Kierez, Najdorf, Kotov, Stahlberg, Lilienthal, Szabo, and Floor, semi-floor. Crazy. Crazy era. Bro, 1950s and 40s, crazy era for chess, bro. Crazy era, bro. These legends you're naming, bruv. Yeah, crazy. You're back and my speaker has not lost battery. Double win. Let's go. Okay, so g6. This marks a King's Indian, I believe. Oh no, not yet actually. It could be something else. So after knight c3, d5, this is a Grunfeld. The Grunfeld is a very, very interesting opening. In my opinion, it's too risky. It's like for me to play as black. I don't want to play it. I wouldn't want to play it. But basically entails that you're, as black, you are giving the center to the white pieces with tempo, only to trade off the knights. And the whole goal of this is then to attack the center with c5. This is still played today. In fact, Anish Giri just released a course on this exact opening for black, and it's a very testing opening. I mean, you're giving the center completely. And it's a defended center only to attack it from the sides. It's a very interesting thing. Okay. So Bronstein goes bishop c4, hinting at this f7 square, pardon. His opponent goes bishop g7, developing the bishop. Knight e2, castles, castles. Okay, so far so good, everyone. C takes d4, and now we take back. Me personally, I would take white here. I am someone who enjoys space, who enjoys development, who enjoys nice pieces and nice things. And I think that white will continue with bishop e3, maybe f4 even, king h1 thing, f5, you know, like white has such an upper hand in my preference. But you know, some people could like the black pieces. Couldn't be me, but yeah. Okay. Back to the white pieces here. So knight c6, attacking the d4 pawn, and bishop e3 to defend. Black goes with bishop g4. So again, the entire idea of this opening revolves around pressurizing this pawn on d4. And yes, the exchange sacrifice is coming. So black now is pinning this knight to try to threaten this pawn once more. If you take off a defender, you are attacking what that defender was defending once more. You get me? So white plays a very nice move. I love this move. You can play f3 when you're castled short, when you have this bishop, because the bishop controls these dark squares. Whereas usually I would kind of condemn an f3 move if you don't have a bishop to take up the dark squares here. Does this make sense? So I love this because like both pieces are contiguous here. They're both like synonymous with each other. They're in symbiosis. So after f3, Boleslavsky plays a very interesting move. He's like, you're attacking my bishop, I'm going to attack your bishop with knight a5. And this gets spooky if you take. I wouldn't take here, because knight takes here, the pressure mounts on our bishop, the pressure here amounts, and this pawn is just looking completely out of play. So white goes bishop back. Once again, I love this. The pawn chain, the center, the bishop pair, everything's looking nice here. The bishop is attacked, so it is a tempo move. The bishop moves back, and now he goes d5. It has to be. Ugh, please go d5. He goes d5. Oh yeah, that's the good stuff. That is indeed the good stuff. To be playing like chess like this is so aura, bruv. The aura of d5 is insane, bruv. Yo, it's kind of a sexy move, bro. It's kind of a sexy move. Okay, d5. I'm glazing a little bit too much, bruv. But this is the entire theme. White is donating this rook. Time for me to read what entails the bishop takes a1 sacrifice. It's the perfect time to do so. The following theme is an important one and is interesting from a psychological point of view. We are going to see white allowing black to take the rook on a1 with his dark squared bishop. Dark squared bishop is the one taking up the dark squares. You feel me? Dark squared bishop. In the previous sections, the rook was actively sacrificing itself onto other pieces. Whereas here, there is merely a threat against the rook being ignored. Like, we're not even gonna give any sense. The psychological part is that black may have been thinking that he was threatening something, and when this threat turns out to be an illusion, this may be difficult to deal with. You feel me? Okay. So basically, this bishop is so important that giving it up does not make sense entirely for black, because we inherit this beautiful diagonal. So the crowns and jewels of this bishop. Okay. Bishop takes a1. Kind of crazy. If you take this bishop, like this bishop can fold back. So you don't really want that. So here Bronstein takes the bishop here. And this is so aura, bro. It's so aura because we're threatening bishop h6, threatening checkmate in the rook. We are threatening this bishop-ish. I mean, not that much because this one is hanging. But we're also threatening like rook d1. And then this bishop needs to move. Right? This knight is out of moves. It's offside. It's completely out of the game. I would take white here 10 times out of 10. And that little like slice of cheese, that one time I wouldn't take it would maybe be, even against Magnus I would take this. Now I'm taking white here because think of it in terms of energy. This bishop exhibits the most energy on this chessboard. Right? It's the best piece on the board right now. The queen is less good than this bishop. The queen is doing like menial tasks defending this knight. This is by far, of all the sides, every piece, it's by far the best piece on the board. And you're giving it away to this rook that is the worst piece, or one of the worst pieces on the board, that is doing absolutely nothing. Right? This rook is only superior to this bishop in the later stages of the game, when the rook becomes active and then controls more squares than an average bishop. But we are in the middle game. And in the middle game, when you give this one for this one, this king being weak is a big problem. These pieces becoming active around this king will be a big problem. And these pieces not being active, especially these rooks not being active, is a problem. This queen not willing or not being close to being traded for this queen to get into an endgame to win is a problem. So all of these problems accumulate for black. What does the engine say about declining the sack? Okay, so if I'll give you the engine lines. I got you. The best move here for black, because white is positionally dominant. So like let's say if you don't take the rook, you go here. This is just advantage for white. Like white goes like rook b1. And the knight is offside, and white has a lot of advantages. One of those is space, 2 of those is pawn structure, 3 of those is this knight being out of the game, etc. So the best move is indeed to take. But what I just explained here is something called compensation. White has so many compensatory elements against this loss of material that it makes up for it fully and then some. A top engine that I will just put on here for fun says this is small edge for white. But also we are taking out of this equation the difficulty in the practicality that it is for black to play this. It's very, very difficult for black to hold this game. We will see this in the coming moves. What's up, Royale? Welcome to the stream as well. Young Magnus, thanks for following the channel. As do you, Chess Gamer. Thanks for the follow, Brev. Appreciate you guys. What book did you take this from? It's called Mastering Positional Sacrifices by Dutch author Marian van Delft. Okay, so now black goes f6.
W's in the shot.
So
W's in the shot.
Boleslavsky sees that bishop h6 threatening mate and the rook was coming. So he blocks against this. And now if we take, queen takes. So that's not possible. Yes, there's a small edge for white in this position. That's how you say evaluations. Yeah. In such crazy situation, black has to push kingside pawns like crazy. I agree and I disagree. A move like f6 does weaken the king slightly. But okay, the position is still equal.
In the shat.
So now Bronstein,
W's in the shat.
he positions, his bishop to the square h6, attacking this rook. Black takes the time to check the king, and now he plays king h1, and now the rook gets out of this attacking territory. All good so far? Do we have any questions in the chat?
W's in the shat. W's in the shat.
Kiyukyao, thank you so much for the follow, Bev. Chukars, thanks for the follow. Adendeng, thank you so much for the follow. Thank you guys so much for the follows on Twitch. Appreciate you a ton. Okay. So, pursuing this here. This is a fantastic game. Fantastic. Oh, wow. So actually, let me just go back here 2 seconds. Queen b6 is a mistake. So the author gives a question mark and says only pushing the white king to a safer square. So you're helping white with this. On h1, this king is like very, very safe. Rook e8 was the best move. Wow. When a very tense situation remains. So this is the best move. It looks such like a bad move. It looks so passive. Instead, black helps the white king with this check. The king is completely safe on h1, as opposed to gaining a time on the white pieces. No, you're helping white. Rook e8, rook d8. The rook looks more active, and still you can't take the bishop because this bishop hangs. But yeah, it's not great. Rook b1 played beautifully. Wow, this is the only move that gains an advantage here for white, and he plays it. Bronstein, fire chess player. So here you're tempoing the queen, you're attacking the queen. This is also in the air, and overall you're gaining activity of your rook by playing it and attacking the queen at once, all at once. Queen c5, and now he plays a bishop move back. I think Bronstein is targeting this knight. He's threatening rook b5, which is a fork on the knight and the queen. He's also threatening a move like bishop b4, forking these two pieces. Although this one is very, very strong, it wins a piece. So black has to play a defensive move like b6. The best move here for black was to actually play this move. This activates the rook. Interesting. And when you play like rook b5 to fork these pieces, black has a very nice resource, queen a3. And now if you take with the rook or the knight, then you take this. And this is actually losing for white because of the fork. So that was the best way to play. b6 is a little slow for black. Bishop b4 attacking the queen. And this is part of the compensation for white. White has active play. So activate your pieces and play fast. The next move that is fast, what is that? What is the next fast move, you guys? Why didn't he take the bishop already? Great question. This pawn is pinned. So if you take the bishop, you're letting the black pieces infiltrate this position. White's worst nightmare would be to allow these rooks some play. And these rooks are very, very active on open files, such as the C file right here. If you donate another file to the black pieces like this, you do a great help to the black pieces that just activate their rooks instantly. Ashu, great remark. Rook c1 was the next move, attacking the queen immediately. Very, very well done. Very well done. Nobody else mentioned it. Wow. So rook c1 here. The next active move. You're tempoing the queen. You're taking up the open file. The queen has to move again. And now queen b1. Again, active moves. Sometimes threatening moves. Here we are threatening to win the knight. If takes, pawn takes, we win the queen here. Rook a b8. Defending the queen. And now we have defended this bishop while making the threat of taking here. Nothing is stopping us from doing d takes c6. And finally, we are making GM12's suggestion from earlier. We're taking this. This is defended. We now have 2 bishops for the rook. This is an overwhelming advantage. And here white is just winning in a landslide. Knight c6. Bishop back, knight e5. Bishop e5. Rook ac8. Bishop takes here. Rook takes, queen takes, pawn takes. Very interesting pattern of pawn, pawn, pawn. I've never seen this before. Or maybe I have, but it's very, very rare if I have. And here white is winning. White is winning like materialistically on the board for one of the first times of the game. And I'm seeing a move that's extremely strong. Yes, and he played it. I'm not surprised. Here you want to make this rook as bad as physically possible. How would you go about that? How do you make this rook extremely terrible looking? How would you go about that? What do you guys think? Yes, yes. You guys are very, very strong chess players. Royale, Dr. Poopies, Momo, Ashu, Mythic, all of you guys got it. Here we're doing 2 things with 1 move. We're defending our pawn, and we are also tranquilizing this rook, ridding it of any square on that open file. Black's only weapon is counterattacking with this rook and queen, right? But the queen can be neutralized by our queen. This rook needs to be neutralized with one of these 2 pieces. What better move than to not only defend this pawn forever, but also let it defend our bishop and just completely erase this rook of anything. Furthermore, the rook can't go on this file to annihilate the white pieces, because the bishop takes up c8. So you're not only blocking this one, you're also taking this one for grabs. Insane move. Very, very, very strong. Restriction. Queen a6. Knight g3. And now I assume he's going to progress his knight. Oh, he wants to go to f5. Bronstein, what are you doing to me? What are you doing? He might even want to go like this. Sacrifice the knight for queen h6 things. My God, this guy. Queen takes a2. Oh, he's going h4, h5. Okay. So now h4. Queen g5. The king has gained some squares. Rook up. Ugh. I want you guys to find the next move. White to play. Oi. White to play and win in this position. White to play and win in this position. Once you find it, you will be ecstatic. If this move doesn't make your day, I don't know what will, bro. I don't know what will. White to play and win in this position. I will reveal the answer when I see the move.
W's in the shot. W's in the shot.
Thanks for the follows and donos. Appreciate you guys. White to play. Yes. Andrea Maccarone. The Italian finds the winning move. Queen takes f6. Sacrificing the queen. Insanity. Isaac Boleslavsky resigned. First of all, you're threatening checkmate in 2 moves. So black has to take the queen. But here the small problem is that you have e7. And nothing can stop you from queening. Black can throw in some checks. But these attempts are unsuccessful after the king shelters itself on h2. The engine says knight h5. So you were cheating with the engine. That only further exposes you. Okay. That's game number 2. I hope you enjoyed that one. Are you guys ready for game number 3? Brethren, that was fire. That was fire. I'm not going to lie to you. So this is the new theme that we're on. I think the next few games will be on this theme. Bishop takes a1 and how this is good for white, actually. Very instructive game. So the pieces just dominated. The king is safe. And we went for a ton of activity, and then we won a piece here with this very nice move, queen b1, with a multi-function threat. Threatening this and threatening this. Okay, our next game. Oh, wow. No way. Okay, our next game is from Black's perspective. This was also played knight h5 is a lot more natural, but queen takes f6 is very direct, very winning. Our next game is Etienne Bacrot, who is the French number 3 player right now, who played against Veselin Topalov, who is arguably Bulgaria's greatest chess player of all time. And so Topalov, you might see on your screen, has a rating of 2,700, whereas Bacrot has a rating of 2,600, 2,594. And so we go with the same theme as we just saw. So d4, d6, knight f3, and now g6. So far, the opening is undefined yet. c4, bishop g7. So this is looking like a modern defense, low-key though. So modern, you see this often against e4, but now it's played against d4. Knight c3, c5, attacking the center here. This is looking like a Benoni-esque move. D takes, bishop takes c3, b takes c3, and you take on c5. Very interesting that I had a game like this, and I lost terribly. I had a game like 8 days ago, and my opponent traded on c3 and had a weak dark squares, but my double pawns were so trash, I ended up losing so quickly, it was insane. I want to see what he says about this bishop takes c3 move. A double-edged decision. Black gives up the bishop pair to weaken the white pawn structure. This is normal in the Nimzo-Indian, but more risky when it involves a fianchetto bishop. Queen takes, king takes. Okay, so they go directly into an endgame. Interesting. Knight e5, threatening this pawn here, and now black develops a piece and defends it. g3, knight d7 to trade off this active knight. Knight takes and king takes. Better here was to play bishop f4. You generally don't want to trade knights after traveling for so long. In chess, we say you give the opponent 2 tempos. You give the opponent 2 moves. So consolidating this knight with bishop f4 would have been better. I'm still very far from seeing a positional exchange sacrifice. This is going to be the sacrifice here. Yeah, I am foreseeing this. Okay. Bishop g2. Really, in an endgame too, is crazy. Knight f6. If takes, probably this, and then knight e4 is enough counterplay. This bishop is skewed off of its extremely nice diagonal. And exchange given, very nice counterplay for black. So white doesn't play that. He plays rook b1. b6 is played to defend the pawn and sacrificing a rook. What haircut would you rock if your hair wasn't curly? I don't know. I really can't imagine a life with non-curly hair. I just love my hair. And I wouldn't even think of my life with just like, you know those people who have like 0 curls. Like it's just straight hair. I couldn't be me. I'm sorry. I can't even think about it. Okay. So b6. He sacrifices the rook in an endgame. How do you do that? How do you do that? Wow. So I guess it's based on the fact that white has a lot of weaknesses. That's the only reason you would do something like this. It's not a blunder. It's not a blunder. This is what we're exploring today. This is called a positional exchange sacrifice, in which you are sacrificing the exchange for a positional reason. Welcome to the chat, Julia. Hope you're having a good day. We are looking at positional exchange sacrifices today. So bishop takes rook, rook takes bishop, and here black seeks compensation for this sacrifice. This was played in the year 2000, so like 24 years ago. It's pretty insane. Okay. Some commentary from the book. Black has achieved many things at the same time. Keeping a superior pawn structure, as we can see here, versus this one, which is terrible. Eliminating the enemy bishop pair, which he has just done. At the same time, we don't have the bishop pair, so I don't know why that's criteria. And having a strong king for the endgame. So a king can be worth up to 5 points if it's extremely, extremely strong. On top of that, the c4 pawn will be lost. Yeah, it's impossible to defend that pawn. So you're really gaining the exchange and 1 pawn for the material sacrificed. f3. Where is f3 here? f3. Knight e8. Interesting. Transferring the knight to the d6 square. I love this by Topalov. This is like such high game sense. It's insane. So Topalov goes, I want to take this pawn, but it's just not too great with a bishop. However, if I can manage to bring my knight over here and take it with a knight, I can cover all of these squares from this bishop and have complete control over this side of the board. And You can't kick my knight with a rook because your pawn is here. Oh my goodness. Actually, when the knight is here, it's so hard to dislodge it because you would have to do it from the side of the board. And I don't see how a rook will do that. I don't see how a rook will kick a knight from the side of the board. So really, this knight is there for good. Bishop f4 is played. And now white goes with bishop takes. Oh, never mind. Oh, well, I guess that white saw that knight d6 is coming in. And on knight d6, bishop takes d6 was prepared. So black now has to commit to taking this pawn. Rook b2, and now king c6. Rook d2 is played, bringing the rook onto the open file while still defending this pawn here, upon which this bishop is holding a little grudge. Knight d6, bringing the knight into the game, and now white decides to trade off this knight. This knight could have been very, very strong, so it's an interesting decision. Although I don't love this here because our pawn is like not that strong. If it was here, it's a different scenario, but here, if white gets this e4 pawn move in, it can be, our pawn can be marked as a backward pawn. I don't love this. f3 king, f and f2 and e4 white should do. Okay. I'll pretend I understood that. Is this book good? I found it good. Yeah. It's not like an essential chess book, but I found this book pretty good. King f2 is played, bringing the king to the center. So whoever said king f2, very nice. d5. Yeah, I don't love king f2 actually. As I just said, I love e4 a little bit more. Here you're ouching this d5 move. It's a bit better, I believe. So king f2 gives d5 in my opinion. e4. Oh, the author agrees. The author says this. Starting with e4 was the alternative. So now e4, d takes, pawn takes. And now we're seeing an accumulation of many weaknesses in the black position. This bishop is so strong, it's unbelievable. This bishop not only hints at this pawn, defends our weakness. But wait, hold on. It can't be attacked, like physically cannot be attacked. Try to attack this bishop. I'll give you 3 moves in this position, even maybe 4 or 5, and I don't think you can physically attack this bishop without getting absolutely eaten. So this bishop is super strong-holded on c4, it's defending this pawn, and it's also helping escalate these pawns, which I love as well. And okay, this is the big glowing weakness in the white position. White has 3 isolated pawns. It's a lot. So rook e8, attacking this pawn. Rook e1 defending, and now bishop e6. Very interesting. I don't know why bishop e6 is played. Let me just see. Next page. The bishop makes a mighty impression, controlling all the key squares. So you're now preventing these pawns from moving up, still hinting at this one, preventing this one from moving up, and preventing this one from counterplay. Seems like the bishop is controlling every single pawn on this chessboard effortlessly with one on one square. Counter question. I exchange rook and put everything on black squares. How are you winning this as black? I think with my king. My king can be very strong in exploiting these weaknesses. Yeah. Okay, so king f3. King b5. Oh, exactly what I just suggested. So here Toparov goes with king b5 to try to exploit this weakness. This explains bishop e6. This is why I was confused. I didn't know why bishop e6 was played. It's actually to clear this square on c4 for this king to hike to. Because the king on c4 is actually doing attacking purposes. You are actually threatening this weakness and making white defend. You want to make the white pieces bow. And I'll even go as far as saying that black executed the sacrifice all the way back here. Black executed this sacrifice based on the fact that this king was more active than this one, and therefore, later on in the game, it was easier for this king to hike up the board here in the unbalanced position and bring some fury where this king can't defend. So this king is too far from the defense of these pawns and cannot match the energy of this one. King f4, the king is attacking our fortress now. And now we go with king c4 attacking this pawn. Rook e3 defends. Where is this? I'm trying to find the game. Rook e3. And now black goes with their extra material. You see here we have a 3-on-2 on this king side. And so bringing these pawns up is only natural to create a passed pawn, also known as a passer. What is the best chess book you have read? It depends for what? For improvement, for general knowledge, for history, for sacrifices, for game collections, about a certain player. I don't know. There's like thousands. There's hundreds of thousands of chess books. King g5 is played here. The king is hunting on these dark squares. The dark squares are our weaknesses as the black pieces, right? All of these dark squares, because we only have a light square bishop, these dark squares are weak, and this is where the white king can penetrate to take our pawn. But black is in time. b5. Topalov's calculation is amazing, by the way. He goes b4 here, attacking this pawn. This pawn here is much more valuable than this one on h7. If you take this one carelessly, I can go, it's even, b3 is even better. I'm realizing if you take, there's rook here, and this one falls. So the idea of black is to go b3. On takes, you go takes, and now you're taking up all the squares for this pawn to just zoom to a1. So white doesn't play that. Very strong player, Etienne Bacot. He's now 2,800, 24 years later. It took him 24 years to acquire 200 rating points. That's how hard this level is. C takes b4. A takes b4. King takes h7. No. Etienne Bacot is like 2740, but he has been very close to 2,800 in his career. So rook a8, pressuring the weakness. And also if you fold back the king, this weakness is in full swing here. Whereas this is like not really a pawn that we're caring about giving. Because this is strong. As long as there's no pawn that can just slide through, we're doing pretty good. King g7, king b5. Bishop is axed onto this pawn, exactly as I said, actually. I'm so proud of myself. I'm like calling all the shots here. But yeah, it's fairly obvious, you could say. Takes this, and this looks extremely good for black. h4, c4. Yeah, no even need to take this. You're just going c4, c3. It's even quicker because you're attacking the rook here. Every move counts in chess. Rook takes a2. And now this is just resignation. White resigned in this position. I guess that if you take c2, c1 is coming in, and if rook here, you're going b3, b2, b1 is completely over. Crazy game. Bacot is 2677 and his peak is 2749. Wow, I really thought it was higher. Maybe I'm mixing him in MVL. He's 2677. Wow. Yeah, he's almost super GM. Okay. It's good. Am I disrespecting Topalov? How? Yeah, so this is just a very positional masterpiece, as we see. Okay, let's go to the next game. So that is the game by Veselin Topalov, the greatest player from Bulgaria. I need to find this game now. I can't find it. It's not here. Eric Van Den Doel. I don't think I could find this game. Okay. Oh, it wasn't to me. Okay. Okay, next game, we're going to have to improvise here because I remember I couldn't find it. It's just it's a game between two amateurs, so it's not like 2700s playing this. But it's on the same theme. So e4, c5, knight f3, d6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes, knight f6, knight c3, a6, pardon. a6, g3, g6, bishop g2, bishop g7, castles, and now white plays h3 to take up the square, preventing this bishop from ever being strong, ridding the black pieces of a strong light squared bishop. Knight c6, bishop e3. Rook develops, probably for some escalation of this pawn. Knight d5 coming in to the play. Knight d7. I'm just looking for the positional sacrifice here. So e6, knight b4. This is a strong move, says the author. A nice move, creating an unusual but effective bind. Okay. Knight takes, pawn takes. Knight b6, probably going for this very nice square here. And this is a very typical theme to restrict the knight. You have all these pawns playing against this knight. d5, as we saw in that Kasparov game, is coming back to life. And now knight e2 is the sacrifice in mind. So here, once again, on the same theme as the past two games, this is called the bishop takes a1 positional sacrifice. And here, black accepts, otherwise we wouldn't have a game to review. Queen takes, and look at all the... my god, it's too nice. Look at all the dark squares we inherit. Also, we are threatening this bishop h6 with the double threat of checkmate and bishop takes f8. This is what we saw in the Bronstein game 2 games ago. The opponent went with rook e8 to get out of this threat. As we saw in the Bronstein game, was very probable. And this was a mistake, says the author. There was no hurry in bringing the queen in, as we know from the Bronstein game as well, including the final piece into play with rook d1. Aha! So we're using the historical games to our favor into establishing that you need to bring in the pieces after sacrificing that rook. So rook d1, as we saw in the Bronstein game with rook b1, if you remember. Rook d1 here serves to pin this pawn and apply pressure on the center. Applying pressure is also a very common theme with this sacrifice. You traditionally want to follow it up with a lot of pressure. So we're pressuring the knight only with the wrong piece. Knight d7. And now white gobbles up the pawn. e5 attacking this queen. This, the author says, is a mistake. Now things quickly go downhill for black. Correct was taking this pawn. And after knight c3 doubling down on this weakness, knight e5 generating some sort of counterplay. And black can still fight back, says the author. But e5 here takes a different path. Queen a7 is the response. Wow, what a move. Author gives exclamation point. Would it have been better for black to not accept this sacrifice? Yes. It would have. Yeah. Exactly. In this game. Now, in 2 games ago, it was actually the best move for black to take. So yeah. Queen a7. b6 here. Trapping the queen. Pseudo trap, you could say. d6. What a move. d6. Opening up the bishop on these squares, preventing rook b7. and taking up this c7 square for the queen. Wow. We are seeing that the black pieces are absolutely constricted, is the word I'm looking for. Absolutely constricted to their baseline. Very sad, but very beautiful. e4 to prevent this bishop from having the luxury of the diagonal. And now rook c1 taking up the weak squares on c7 and c8. Rook b7 threatening the queen, and we can actually take here, and white calls the bluff and takes this pawn that was previously defended. Rook b8 attacking the queen by discovery, but we can just move the queen to a7. And when you go back with the rook, white meets this with queen a4 now, which we can play because there's no pawn on a6. So we're threatening these things maybe. Getting back into the game. b5 attacking the queen, queen a5, looking to trade queens and create a very, very strong pass pawn. Definitely a strong move. I just want to see this. So this is instantly winning. If you do this to prevent this pawn from coming in, white is just completely tearing the black pieces apart. I mean, black has no activity to show for. Bishop here to take up this c5, c6 square, and knight takes a b5 because this is not defended. Wow. So just a look into that nightmare. If you take the queen, it's completely over. Quite crazy. Queen f6 was played in the game, though. Knight c3. Also the same idea. There are so many weak squares on this board. It doesn't make sense to not exploit them. What better with than a knight? So we're sacking a pawn here, but we're winning this one on b5 and creating 3 passed pawns. Crazy. Chat, I'm crying right now because my best friend called me a camel. Am I cooked? We're in a chess stream. You need to be a certain very high to pull off this kind of sacrifice. Yeah. I spoke to like the best Venezuelan player. And I said, show me your best game. I DM'd him on Instagram. This was a very, very long time ago when I was going to do... I was going to post a YouTube video on the best chess players from every continent. And the first continent I was going to do was South America. And for Venezuela, he sent me like a game that was insanely creative, in which he sacrificed a rook on this a1 square, and his queen was so strong in the diagonal, like I always remembered that theme. So taking that into account historically into these games makes a lot of sense. Knight b5. And now we have 3 pass pawns on the queen side. The opponent played what? Let me just see. Queen b8, moving the queen out of danger, and now knight c7, infiltrating into the position and forcing this rook here. This is a terrible square for the rook, which is always a good sign. And now bishop takes c4. Okay, this game is completely over. This is a term I invented. If I die tomorrow, this is one of the contributions I have made to the game of chess. This is what I call the raise of bishops. Is when 2 bishops, like a transformer, come together to control every square adjacent to each other in a diagonal. Raise of bishops. Knight f6 attacking the bishop. Bishop g2. And now bishop f5. Knight a6 attacking the queen. The queen moves to a8. And now knight c5. And this, we're just winning our material back with tactics. Takes. Oh no, actually you're saving the rook. But the pawns are so strong, it's completely over. Rook c7. I don't know why we're still playing this one. g4. Attacking the bishop. Bishop goes back. And now bishop f4 attacking the rook. Activity, piece activity is so important when executing these sacrifices. Rook cc8. Bishop b7, accelerating the squares for this pawn. We're taking up these squares. Rook c d8 now. And now knight takes e6, takes. And now this pawn is surely going to bring in the win. No. White is so patient coming in with this pin. Rook d7, bishop c8, rook e7, a6, king g7, b4. And here white resigned. It's over. It's over, Bev. Wow. Crazy. I mean, yeah. What a chess game. This was played by two amateurs. Very crazy. I feel like black was too materialistic. Like he let the white pieces be too strong, and also he let the squares be too weak in the position. Like, you can't let knight e4 and then knight takes b5, or knight c3 and then knight d5 in the game. It's too crazy. So yeah. That was game number 4 of the day. I don't remember anymore. We still have more positional sacrifices, chat. Next one is by my favorite chess player of all time, Mr. Tigran Petrosian. Let me just get a sip of water and I'll give you a little bit of information on Mr. Tigran Petrosian. Okay. Tigran, the Tiger, the Iron Tiger Petrosian, was the world's 9th world chess champion from 1963 to 1969. Petrosian is widely regarded as one of the greatest chess players of all time. He is actually famous for popularizing the exchange sacrifice, which we are seeing today. So you're seeing an exchange sacrifice by the maestro, the chef behind the meal. He is originally from Armenia and also has made it onto Armenia's currency. I think he's on the five of the Armenian currency, which is kind of crazy. So here we go. Knight f3 is played. g6. Tigran Petrosian has the black pieces against Lev Polugaevsky, who has white. Lev Polugaevsky, very, very strong Soviet grandmaster as well. So there you go. Knight f3, g6, d4, bishop g7, c4, and now d6. This is also a modern type of defense. Knight c3, and now e5. This is more like King's Indian type of structure. e4 played by white. Knight c6, d takes e5, takes with the knight, and then knight d4, and now a6. Petrosian has a special setup in mind. The straightforward knight e7 here also gives black a smooth game. But here a6, you're taking away these squares from these knights. Bishop e2. And now Petrosian kicks this knight with c5, although inherently gives this d5 square to the white pieces and further weakens it a ton. Hi, bro, from Iran. What's up, Pars? How you doing? So, yeah, I don't like this really for black. I'm going to be straight up honest with my boy Tigran Petrosian, is that this square is extremely weak and this pawn is extremely weak by extension. Bishop e6, taking up this square, or at least fighting for it minimally. Additionally, you're also attacking c4. So white plays knight d5 and takes up this royally good square. Takes. Pawn takes. I don't like pawn takes. I feel like pawn takes does black a favor because this square is not weak anymore, and by extension, this pawn is not weak anymore. I feel like something like queen takes here, even if your queen is kicked, something like queen takes here, but even if you go like queen d2, let's say, this square remains so weak, and this bishop can't defend this pawn so easily like this, that I think this is small edge for white, in my opinion. So pawn takes, knight e7, castles, and now castles. We are getting to the positional exchange sacrifice soon. We are seeing a new theme here. Rook b1, knight f5. Look at these knights. Very nice. b4. White decides to fight for the initiative, but this does weaken some squares. This is what the author says. So it weakens c3 here, which was previously defended. C takes, rook takes, queen c7. So queen c7 defending this b7 pawn. Bishop b2. This may be a step in the wrong direction. The modest and restrained h3 was better. Wow, crazy. Hi, are you playing yourself? No. As you can see, we are recounting a game from history between Tigran Petrosian and Lev Polugaevsky. This game will demonstrate the theme of today, which is the positional exchange sacrifice, in which you sacrifice the exchange for a minor piece, so a bishop or a knight. I got you. Rook e8, knight d4, and now tradings on d4 are executed. Still no positional exchange. Sacrifice. Knight d7. Let me just find the page. Okay, this is a real mistake. Ooh, Petrosian with a real mistake. Now black manages to exchange the right pieces. Oh, knight d4 was a real mistake. My bad. This was a real mistake. Now black manages to exchange pieces. Okay. So now bishop back, avoiding the exchange of bishops, but allowing another exchange. And this is Tigran Petrosian's exchange sacrifice. Rook takes e3, sacrificing the exchange. Oh, what do we think of this? This is not... Oh, this is actually a term. Okay. This positional exchange sacrifice is known as the bishop snatcher. The author says, and I quote, "One of my favorite positional exchange sacrifices is the bishop snatcher." The term was coined by Arthur van de Wiedewetering, Dutch name. It refers to playing rook takes e6 with white or rook takes e3 with black. Interesting. In its purest form, the bishop snatcher causes damage in the opponent's pawn structure. Tight beat. Furthermore, it often leads to domination on a particular color complex, the light squares after rook takes e6, or the dark squares after rook takes e3. So in other words, you take the bishop on e3, but the dark squares will be weak, and you have to have a bishop to execute on those weaknesses. Say hi. Why are you putting that angry thing, Rev? Okay. So rook takes e3, pawn takes e3. And now knight c5. So we are taking up these dark squares. Very interesting. I've never seen this game before. This is a learning moment for me too. So this bishop is clearly extremely strong. And the bishop here is not present. But, okay, white does have two rooks, and we only have one rook. Knight c5 is an outpost. Yes. Very, very nice. So the knight is on c5. It's an outpost, and it's looking onto these nice squares. Queen c2. And now rook e8, bringing in the final piece. Always very important when you execute a positional sacrifice like this. Applying pressure on the weaknesses is very important. bringing in the final piece into the attack is very important. Exhibiting patience when getting that compensation for the material sacrificed is very important. This isn't live. This is live. Why do you think this is not live? Oh, I have 2 chats running. So if you think I'm talking to myself, there's a chat on YouTube and there's a chat on Twitch, upon which we are both live on at the same time. So rook e8, pressuring this. Rook f3 to me is the only logical response, defending. And now we go with bishop h6, pressuring the weakness. We are still pressuring this weakness. Thank you for congratulating me on 200K. I appreciate that. So bishop h6, queen c3 to defend the pawn, and now queen e7. So we are tripling down on this pawn. Insanity. Rook b6, a serious mistake. Oh, wow. He just gave up. Oh, okay. He just gave the game. Wow. Lev Polugaevsky played this? Wow. Lev Polugaevsky played this and just resigned after knight a4. This is a 2600. Yes, I'm cheating on you guys. I'm streaming on 2 platforms. I only streamed 2 years on Twitch before starting to stream on YouTube as well. You guys are definitely the ones I'm cheating on YouTube. Yeah. LG Oliveira, thank you so much for the follow. And Leo Gamer, thanks for the follow as well. So knight a4 and a 2600 just like blundered, like it happens to everyone, I guess. Wow. And he resigned here. But the game could have gone on with like rook b1. So if rook b1, let's say, bishop takes e3, and basically black is winning back that pawn and has a lot of compensation, and this is how the game could have gone. f5 is also possible, something like this. And black has that compensation. Okay. That's game like number 5. When is this ending? How many games do we have left? Okay, we have 10 pages left. One of those is reading material. And we have... I don't have much voice left, so that's a little issue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I want to see how many games we have left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 games left. You guys want 5 games left? How many games do you guys want to see? What was this Petrosian game again? It's Polugaevsky versus Petrosian. If you type this on the internet, you'll find it. 1950, I believe. Sorry, I didn't say it. 1983. Oh, wow. It's very far into their careers. Yeah, I got you. I didn't say the year, so you're fair play, my friend. Okay. How many games do you guys want to see? We have at most 5 games left. I can do all 5 tonight. Or we can do 2. Let me know how many you guys are in the mood for. Next game is Grishuk against Rienziov. Here we go. Andrea says all. Momo says 2. Itzo says all. Gia says 1. Okay, Gia's spamming a little bit.
Harrison K. who just subscribed for 17 months. Yo.
Harrison, thank you so much for the 17 months of subscribing to the channel. This is proof that I've been streaming on Twitch longer than on YouTube. Thanks for the 17 months, Harrison. How you doing? Is there a Fisher game? Just wondering. No, there's no Fisher game. We are ending on a Vishy game, I believe. So that's a nice cherry on the Sunday. Okay. So this next game was Alexander Grishuk against Ryantsev from 2009. So this is an Alekhine's defense. Interesting. $92. Okay. We're kind of speed running the opening. Oh, yeah. I'm feeling this positional exchange sacrifice going to happen here. Yes. Okay. So it's going to happen here. So knight EF3. Very instructive positional move. Black would like to exchange a pair of knights to make his position less cramped. Therefore, white avoids the pressure, avoids the exchange and keeps the pressure. Wow. Very instructive here. So taking this would actually do black a favor because black is cramped in this position. And so Grishuk, at the time, is one of the best players in the world, says, I'm not going to do a favor to the black pieces. I'm going to lean back with my knight, and now this is looking all ugly. So his opponent plays knight df6, and you already know what's happening here. Fun fact. This is actually the best move in the position. So this sacrifice is extremely strong. It's fully packed with punch. Rook takes e6. The Bishop Snatcher Part 2. So this is a second example of the Bishop Snatcher. This time it's Rook takes e6, which is messing up Black's pawn structure, and you are going for the light squares because your bishop is kept on the board. Will this be posted? Yes, all of my streams are posted as highlights, and they're posted as highlights in vertical format on YouTube, and they're posted as highlights in horizontal format on Twitch. So for everyone to see on any platform, anywhere, anytime. I got you, bruh. So rook takes e6, f takes e6, and look how weak these double isolated pawns are on a semi-open file. Knight g5. Follow up to take this and fork these two pieces. The queen goes to d6 to defend, but we can press with queen e1. Author gives this a great move as well. An excellent move, increasing the pressure while sidestepping knight f4. Ah, I see. So queen e2 is not as strong because knight f4 attacks our queen and defends. So you want to go queen e1. So that there's no knight f4 attacking our queen. Knight f4 still defends, but it doesn't attack our queen. Black plays b5, sacrificing a pawn, very ambitious. Black tries to find a way to create counterplay, says the author. So bishop b3 was played by our Sasha Grishuk. Okay, Gia, you're spamming, Rev. I don't love spammers. So I'll time you out for a minute. I got you. a5 to trap the bishop, and white responds with a4 to refuse that trap. B takes a4, and then knight c4. So white has not only given an escape square to the bishop here with a4, but also is fighting for this c4 square. And when black takes here on a4, they're also donating this square to the white pieces, and now Grishuk takes it with tempo on the queen, rejecting this threat on the bishop. And once the queen moves, then we can take this pawn with the rook. And we're just seeing the abundance of weak pawns in this position. Really, this positional sacrifice is about making weaknesses on your opponent, creating active weaknesses here. And we can see this so nicely. Rook takes a4. The pawn is so trash on a5, on e6. They're all hanging. They're about to be taken. Rook a6 is played. And now Grishuk takes his pawn here. Rook fa8, putting pressure on the rook. Bishop d2, defending. Every piece is doing something here, right? The knight is defending, the bishop's defending, the queen's attacking. This knight's attacking, this bishop is x-raying the king. Every piece has a function. You have to max out your position and ensure that you have complete coordination if you're going to go through with a positional sacrifice like rook takes e6 here. Bishop h6. It's really good to have like a rubric for positional exchange sacrifices that do work. Because oftentimes you'll do one and you're clueless and it doesn't work, right? So h4, bishop takes g5, h takes g5. We're trading off the knight. Keeping the bishop pair, as we've seen earlier tonight, is a very good theme for the white pieces. Knight d7, the knight was attacked, and now we go with a rook trade into this. We could call this an endgame, but maybe a bit too soon for an endgame. Queen takes back, and now knight a5. Maintaining the domination by closing the a file, so restricting your opponent's pieces. We've seen this before as well. Such a strong move, and suddenly black's counterplay to try to trade off our queen is erased. Erased with one move. Black plays c5, active play, threatening our pawn and going with knight c5, but this is a serious mistake. Here it was advantage for the white pieces, and this, now it becomes winning for white after c5. Why is c5 so bad? White can now play bishop a4, attacking this knight, and this actually wins material. If you move the knight, say, to b6, attacking my bishop, I can play bishop c6, attacking the rook. And if the rook moves to a7, we can take this. And if you defend this, let's say, then I can take this pawn on c5. So really, it's all about attacking this knight and then attacking this rook and blocking the queen from defending this pawn. Whoops. My bad. So black plays rook a7 here, defending the knight in quite an awkward manner. And so again, now here we're not attacking this rook and interfering with the queen's defense on e6. So we have to find a way to not play bishop c6, to play something active that is not bishop c6, because bishop c6 doesn't work here. So instead we have a very simple combination. I will let you guys solve. White to play and win a small amount of material. The Chess Nerd, are you going to do a 24-hour stream? Very good question. I would say not now, because I have a tournament in 4 days for which I am leaving for, but maybe soon. Maybe soon. What is the move here? What is the move here for the white pieces? Very simple combo. Sack the bishop, says MF. Where? Could you ban Gia? I just banned Gia. Yes. Any suggestions as what to do on the actual chess position? I'm looking at c4, but not convinced. c4 is very interesting. I like that you're going for activity, Harrison. You're trying to kick the knight. c4. What if I play knight b4? And my idea against c4 is that I want to play knight b4, and I'm attacking your knight and your bishop. And if you take my knight, I take your bishop, and I'm threatening your knight and bishop still. Knight c6. On knight c6, I can take your bishop, and then when you take my rook, I can take your knight, and this is better for black. Bishop b4 gives a bishop. Yes, yes. 9459. Got it correct. Well done. Well done. Yes, TH Chili as well. What's up, Chili? How you doing, bro? Long time no see. How you doing? Yes, so this is correct. Congrats to both of you. So bishop takes. You want to take off the defender of this c5 square, which was the knight, and now you take. And although you're making trades, and although you're trading off your sacred light square bishop, which is all true, you are winning a second pawn, which is now enough compensation for the material you earlier sacrificed. And now this pawn takes back the pawn, and we have a very luscious passed pawn, threatening c6 to void the queen of the defense of this e6 pawn. Knight c7 played. c4 now. This is Harrison's move. Queen a8, and now c6. The rook is attacked. It needs to move. Now we axe our... This is perfect play, by the way. We axe our bishop on the weak light squares. This is also one of the reasons we originally sacrificed on e6. We want to weaken these light squares, these dark squares around the king. That's exactly what we accomplished with a bishop move. And with this, now the tactics start to seep in. We are already seeing that queen e5 is a threat, threatening checkmate and the knight here. And, okay, it is savable, like knight e8, but you then have like check and takes, and it's winning. So queen f8, queen e5 attacking the knight, check, king here. And black realized that whatever you do, we have queen h8 and queen takes, and resigned is the best option. So black resigned here. If you move the knight, for example, queen h8 check, king f7, queen takes check, knight g7, and even, I believe you can just trade everything here. Because I have c7. And now the rook can't can't make the circumference of the board to defend this c8 square in time for this pawn to promote and graduate to a queen. Quite a pretty game by Alex Grishuk. One could even say a model game. A model game in chess is a game that's played perfectly, like a model, like an actual Victoria's Secret model. Okay, next game is by Vadim Zvjajintsev in 2012. That's the next game. I don't have it here. I don't have our next game. Chat, I'm gonna brew up an analysis board, and we're gonna just analyze it on our own together. Okay, next game. Vadim Zvjajintsev against Ivan Rozum. Played in St. Petersburg in 2012. I just want to see this game for the theme that we're seeing together. This is called the Movsesian. E6 by black. Castles. Knight Ge7. Rook e1, a6. Bishop f1. d5, d3. h6, a4. g6 is a mistake. The bishop fianchetto is too slow under the current circumstances. Black should rather have kept the position closed with d4. Huh. So it's too slow, this. I don't know why yet, but we'll see. Knight bd2, bishop g7, and then knight b3, threatening this pawn. b6 to not only defend the pawn, but really take every square away from this knight. This is extremely good restriction. a5 to gain back these squares and turn around this queenside position for our knight. Castles. A takes b6, queen takes b6, and now we're seeing slight destruction of the pawn structure, and also we can try to fight for this a5 square, which would be pretty nice. To overload this pawn and dominate this position just a little bit. So next, queen b6, e takes d5, e takes, and now he goes bishop e3, d4, bishop f4, rook d8. I love this bishop, by the way. It's a razor. Knight ft2, sensational move by Vadim. Transferring this knight to c4, upon which it can find an outpost and attack this queen, and also target weak squares like e5 and d6. This is an absolute banger of a move. Bishop e6 to not let this knight on c4. And now we have the bishop snatcher positional exchange sacrifice that we've seen in the past two games. Rook takes e6. Which website is this? Chess.com. The bishop snatcher, leaving black with zero chances for dynamic play. From now on, white controls all the key squares. So takes back. So the idea of this, as we have seen, is because we want to create desperate pawn structures in our opponent's side. We want to take up the light squares that are torn apart, and we want to outplay and dominate the black pieces. So this knight has like no future. We want to prevent this knight from having a future. We want to prevent this bishop that already has a compromised future, and we want to attack the queen on tempo. Knight c4. The queen goes back to a7, and now we take in these very nice squares with knight d6. Oh, bishop d6, sorry. Knight d6 kind of loses. That's why I was looking at my book. I was like, Rev, I don't believe that. I don't know about all that. So, yes. Wait. I have to lower my chair. What? Okay. Oh, shit. Okay. Here we go. Shaky. Shaky like this game. So, bishop d6 is played. And after bishop t6, we can see... Let me just look. Oh, wait. My camera moved. Okay, here we go. So, bishop d6 here. Threatening this pawn, so you have to always attack these weaknesses. I really appreciate this move. It's extremely hard for black to defend this. Even I'll go as far as saying I think this pawn is completely snatched off the board. Bishop d6. Knight d5 played. And white can take this pawn, but decides to play queen g4. Threatening two pawns at once. King f7. Oh no, queen f7 was played. Okay, wait. Pardon me. Queen f7 defends these pawns. And now knight takes c5. On tempo, in the right moment. So we take back a pawn. We are now down a bishop and a pawn for a rook. But we take back the pawn and we threaten these two pawns. So white has a ton of activity, a ton of compensation, and the black pieces are just being outplayed right here on sight. Bishop f8 tries to trade off a pair of bishops. Knight e4 is played. Oh my god, what a move. It's very, very strong. And here white is absolutely pressing. We have two knights defending this bishop. A stronghold on d6. Knight f6 is played. Now white trades off these knights and goes bishop c7, saving the bishop. We always, almost always, we have repeatedly, as we can say from the past two games, we have repeatedly conserved the bishop pair. The bishop pair is very useful. And so you want to avoid trading it off, especially once you've sacrificed an exchange and you're down material. So what does this book say now? Bishop c7. Bishop c7. First destabilizing the position of the black rook before retreating. So now black plays rook d7. Bishop g3 here. And now the rook a7 is played. That's an odd move. White plays a super nice move, centralizing the queen on all three weaknesses. Queen a4, super, how should I say, super symmetrical, artistic, very artistic. Rook d5 blocking this threat, and now bishop e2. We are activating our final piece into the game via g4, via f3. It's looking good. It's a very common theme to bring in the final piece into the game. Max out your pieces once you sacrifice the exchange. So bishop e2, h5, preventing bishop g4. But then we settle for bishop f3 and a pretty nice diagonal on a few weaknesses of the black pieces. The rook moves to c5, anticipating this bishop opening up, which is not crazy. Now h5, fixing these two pawns and taking up this g5 square. I like this a lot. Queen e2, e5 is played, solidifying the pawn structure. But I don't love this move. It gives a lot of squares here. Queen e2. This is a bad move. White starts to hesitate a bit, says the author. Better would have been b4, striving. Absolute hunter mentality. Sacrificing a pawn to then take this one. So it's not really sacrificing. It's like trading a pawn. To take this one on e5 and look at these super devastating pieces. Beautiful. So, okay. Queen e2. Still with the same intent. You're putting pressure on the knight to try to win this pawn here on e5. Bishop g7 is played by the black pieces. Stronghold e5. And now rook e1. We are putting pressure with now a fourth piece into this attack. a5 is played. Queen d1. It turns out the immediate knight d2 was possible. Oh, that's such a strong move. The transfer of this knight to that e4 square to threaten these two pieces, but also this square is just a magical square for our knight, because this is a backward pawn here on e5, so you're blockading that pawn, but you're also maybe escalating your knight to g5. Sensational play by the white pieces. So after knight d2, knight b4 would have been played. No. Knight d2. Oh, rook takes can be played anyways, but now queen d1, attacking the rook and making room for knight d4. Rook takes, bishop d5 check, and then knight e4 with a ton of counterplay, even though we've given two pawns. You're giving two pawns just so your pieces are a little bit more active. It's unbelievable. But okay, white goes the slow way. We're defending this pawn first, and then we're transferring the knight via d2, e4 to conserve this pawn from this rook takes c2. It's very, very logical in my opinion, just a little bit slower. Queen e6, knight d2, and now knight b4, pressuring this c2 pawn, and this is backfiring. That's what the author says. Knight back to c4. Realizing the knight was actually fine on c4. Lol. a4 is played. Queen d2 attacking this. It's time to start moving again, says the author. The knight goes back to c6. And now bishop e4, targeting another weakness. And also queen g5 will come with a bit more punch. Knight a5, trying to trade off a great piece. Queen b4, great move said by the author. Winning at least a second pawn here. You're threatening the rook, you're threatening the pawn. Bishop f8 defending the rook, taking this pawn on a4. King h7. b4 forking the pieces. Knight back to c6, attacking the queen by discovered attack. Queen takes a7, sacrificing the queen with intent. Knight takes, and then you take the rook. And now white has a bishop and rook and a pass pawn for a queen. Very interesting imbalance in the position. Knight c6 is played, and after rook a1, his opponent resigned because this pawn is just too strong combined with the bishop. You can't touch this bishop on e4. The knight is too far. It would need like 4 turns to try to even touch the bishop. This is a dark squared bishop, so it can't hurt this bishop. And this queen can't touch this bishop because it's defended by a pawn. Also, the pawns can't touch the bishop. So really, you really cannot touch this bishop. And that means that whatever this bishop touches, it's gold, because this rook is coming on to the 6th rank and just absolutely slaughtering that 6th rank. Black is lost. I can give some examples. Let's say queen d7, rook to a6, targeting this and this, knight e7 defending. But okay, you've defended everything, but now this is hanging. But not only that, c6 is the best move here, attacking the queen. The queen, let's say, goes to c7, and then you're like taking this pawn. Queen goes here, and then like rook a7, pinning this knight. You're going to go like bishop here. Queen e6, c7, threatening something like this and this. King out of the way, rook in, and then just eventually you're just going to be winning here.
W's in the shot. W's in the shot.
Yeah, so that was game number like 7 of the day. Wasn't c5 hanging in that final position? Let's see. Yeah, it is hanging, but you're winning a piece. So if bishop takes, rook a6. And there's no way to avoid this pin. Very good question. It's easy to miss that. Yeah. Are you looking at a book? Yes, this is the book that we're taking today's chess lesson from. Okay. I'm losing voice, you guys. I think we're going to end it here. We did to be fair, we did a lot of progress. How much did we do? We can finish this tomorrow. We saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games, 7 games. Makes sense. We're going to end it on building a repertoire 6.6, and there's like 2 games tomorrow. We're going to do that and some rapid chess. How about that? Hard work, y'all. I've been doing this all day, so for me, I'm losing voice now. But yeah. Thanks for the lessons. I got you, Crash Dummy Rich. Thank you so much for being here. thank you everyone for watching. Hope you have an amazing day. And see you soon. The Discord can be found in the About page, Andy Rocks. I got you. Critter Mode, thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate you so much. Okay, everyone. I bid you adieu. See you tomorrow. And try some positional exchange sacrifices. Try them in your games. Let me know how it goes. We learned about the bishop snatcher today. We learned about bishop takes a1. We also learned about the rook takes c3 in the Sicilian exchange sacrifice. So you have a lot of tools in your toolkit now to use. So yeah, bye everyone. See you soon. See you tomorrow. Matter of fact.